Hello, welcome to Beach View, our podcast where we talk about random things and stuff.
Yep.
So we just finished up 4 episodes of music, reviewing albums, which was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And now we're going to switch gears and get into our current viewings.
Yes, this is current viewing 6, I believe.
Wow.
So, yeah, I guess I'll start. And my current viewing, my first one at least, is the World Cup.
Yes.
The FIFA World Cup, which is the soccer tournament that happens every 4 years. You know, soccer players get into their national teams and they play a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big deal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so, how much do you know about the World Cup, watch the World Cup, anything like that?
Well, I will say when I was with you over Thanksgiving, we, of course, watched the World Cup. And typically, I don't watch it on my own. I usually, watch it if somebody else is watching it. But I do keep up with the news on it. So, I see, and mostly on, social media or,
Yeah.
If you just go on Google, there's always, some kind of news, alert on it. So that's how I keep up with it. But I do enjoy, keeping up with it. I just don't personally watch every game.
Yeah. Well, this one's been quite a good one. It's an unusual one because of, controversies and, it's happening in winter instead of summer like it normally does.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been, I think, I know a lot of people who watch it or keep up with the news. And to me, it's been a more exciting or interesting, I think, World Cup than I have enjoyed in previous years.
Yeah, well, it's, no team got 3 wins in the group stage, which usually happens in a World Cup, so it's been pretty evenly matched in that regard. There's been some, neat upsets that nobody ever expected going into the tournament. Both Japan and Morocco topped their group.
Wow.
Which was not something anybody expected either of those teams to do, so it's been quite an interesting one.
Yeah, definitely. I've also enjoyed, I can't say enjoyed, I've been interested in some of the, I guess the news surrounding it. So, stuff that the fans were doing, or, I forget where it happened, but where, a set of fans who are watching the World Cup were, attacked or something. And just, keeping up with what is going on surrounding the World Cup is super interesting to me.
Yeah, that's always an interesting story, just because, you get a lot of different people, rowdy people in one place.
Politics, a lot of politics, and especially in the place that it's in right now, there's a lot of, I guess, protests, or I don't know if you even call it, what would you call it when they're players are kind of making statements, not necessarily with their words, but with their locker rooms or whatever, just kind of shining a light on the what's happening in the area that they're in.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of controversy because of bribery. I don't know if that was ever confirmed or just alleged, but also some people were that's just how the World Cup works, and that the 2 past nations that hosted it, in Brazil and Russia, also bribed FIFA more than likely.
Wow.
So I don't know about that, but Qatar is not a nation that's where it's being hosted. That really should have had it, just on the raw fact that they didn't have the stadiums for it.
Right.
They had to build all but one of their stadiums, and there was a whole controversy with how they got it built.
Yes.
And just not treating their workers well, not having regard for their safety, and there being a lot of deaths.
Yes, it's so crazy. The whole leading up to the World Cup, what's going on now, people speaking out about just the nation's, human rights in general, that kind of stuff. Not to get too political or anything, but it's just that whole part is I like to read about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, which is a shame because the games have been really good, like I said.
I know, yes. Yeah, and beside the fact that I also enjoy seeing, how the games go and what's going on with the actual games. I don't want to dismiss that because that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of that sort of situation. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people felt that in the US with football when we had that big concussion scandal.
Yes.
And it's like, I like watching the game, but it's kind of iffy when it's been revealed that they've just not been taking the players' health into consideration.
Yes. I mean,
it's like
all
whole
for
thing.
Sport. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so what has been, I guess, your favorite matchup so far?
Ooh, I don't know. Morocco's been making a deep run into the tournament, which was unexpected at the start of it. Croatia is doing it again. They made it, surprised everyone and made it to the final last time, but they're poised to do it again potentially.
Yeah.
Which has been interesting, and there's been a lot of good games, a lot of close games.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a lot of interesting matches. There's been like some wild comebacks, both in the group stage and in the knockout rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's pretty cool. Yeah. The funny thing is, so Travis, my husband, he was saying he was like looking up scores and stuff the other day, and he's like, I wouldn't have even like had this on my mind had it not been like watching it with you. So he's like all into it now, and I think that's really funny because he's never really been like a soccer fan, and I don't consider myself a soccer fan, but I do think it's like fun to watch, in the way that I don't follow, it a lot, but for World Cup, it's definitely something that's happening like on the world stage. Everybody is paying attention to it, and I just love it. It's kind of like an Olympics to me, I love watching the Olympics. I like watching all of the nations like have pride around their teams, and I like to watch, there are always like little quirky things about each set of fans, like who's the one, is it Iceland, whose fans like have that cheer that everybody else started doing too? Yeah, like that kind of stuff is fun too.
Yeah, and it's always interesting seeing like both the Olympics and the World Cup, seeing like athletes perform well on a big stage like that. And
yes,
it's really neat.
I know, I love like the national teams because it's like the best of the best, from that area, and I love the underdogs, like seeing these like tiny countries or just countries that you normally, well, I can't say normally, that
you wouldn't expect.
Yes, countries that you wouldn't expect to win, like making a comeback. Like I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely, despite the controversies, it's been a good tournament. And yeah, I always like World Cup season when it comes around.
Yeah, so how much longer does it have?
So, when this goes up, the only game left will be the final.
Wow.
We're currently, at time of recording, at the semifinal. Well, there's still one quarterfinal game to be played, but then we're at the semifinals, so it's almost over.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Nearing the end.
Yep. It's been quite a tournament, so yeah, interesting to see how it ends up. And yeah, that's my current viewing.
That's awesome. One last question on that. Who do you want to win?
Oh, I don't know. I'm mostly interested in just watching good games.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have an opinion on that either. I think it's just fun to see who it will be,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so you ready to get into my current viewing?
Sure.
Okay, so I have been rewatching The Gilmore Girls, which was, a fan favorite. Gilmore Girls. So it ran for 7 seasons. The original Gilmore Girls ran for 7 seasons from 2000 to 2007. And I didn't watch it when it first came on. Like a lot of series that I binge now, they're all like older ones that I haven't watched before, like maybe late 2010s. And so I like it because I love watching the old series, especially because a lot of them are still relevant now, But I also like to see like kind of references to like that time, whether it's like the old school like cell phones or like sidekicks or like, whatever, like just older kind of stuff. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But so Gilmore Girls had a huge following when it was first on, and probably an even bigger following now that it's streaming on Netflix. Have you ever watched it?
I've seen some of it, like, just because other people were watching it.
Well, I have to tell you, like, when I first tried watching it, so this is like my second time watching the whole series. I watched it before on Netflix, and then it's been like probably like 4 or 5 years, and I'm watching it again. I just finished. But when I very first started watching like the first couple of episodes, I was like, oh, this is kind of annoying. Like the characters, they talk fast and they talk so much. In fact, one of the stars of the show, Lauren Graham, who plays Lorelai, she did like an interview, I don't know, a long time ago. And she said it was actually like a challenging thing to film because there was so much dialogue. So I at first thought it was kind of annoying, and I was like, I don't know if I can get through this, but once I started, like, I guess into the second episode, I was like, oh, okay, it became like endearing instead of annoying, so that was kind of funny. But just basically the basic premise of it is that it's about a single mom. So Lorelai, Lauren Graham, she got pregnant when she was 16 and raised her daughter Rory, who was played by Alexis Bledel. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And so they've been on their own, like, from when she gave birth at 16 to present day in the show starts when I think Rory is like, I don't know, a teenager. I guess she's 16. I'm not real sure. But anyway, so it's all about their lives together. And so because Lorelai was so young when she had Rory, and she was on her own. She like ran away from home and like kind of started a new life with her in this small little town called Stars Hollow, which is a small town in Connecticut. And it just shows how they're kind of friends instead of not the traditional like mother-daughter dynamic. They're more like friends than they are mother-daughter, which I think you see a lot in like shows like this, kind of thing. But it was really cute, but they're like addicted to coffee. They talk super quick and they're like got these like witty retorts. I did think Lorelai, like I said, when I first started watching, was annoying. She's super goofy, like just, like a fun mom, like super goofy. But like I said, it becomes endearing.
Yeah.
And it just shows. So, I guess Rory was 16 and then she gets into this super nice school called Chilton. And it's supposed to be like a prep school for like the Ivy Leagues, and they don't get like a scholarship or financial aid or something like falls through. And so Lorelai has to go to her parents who live in Hartford to ask for money because her parents are like super rich. Okay. So it also kind of shows like how Lorelai like ran away from that life. She could have married like Rory's father when they were younger, but she just, left him to live his own life. And he still shows up. He's still in the picture here and there, but largely kind of leaves them alone. So she goes to the grandparents, to ask for help. And they do give her the money for Chilton, but they say it's conditional that they have to have family dinner together every Friday night. So the show is largely like, it shows like their family dinners every Friday, so it's about all of these characters and like the dynamic with Lorelai's parents. So anyway, it was just like a fun little show. So do you know anything at all about like the revisit? They did like a limited series afterward, like in 2016.
Yeah, that's been super popular for the past several years to like take an old series and like do a new thing for it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's been a super popular formula to follow, I guess. So I just watched that again. Of course, like I watched the whole Gilmore Girls series, and then I had to watch the Year in the Life is what it's called, and they did 4 90-minute episodes, and they were named after the seasons, so winter, spring, summer, fall. And it kind of like it shows their lives, I think, like 9 years later, which I thought was kind of funny because everybody looks so much older than, of course, they did. But anyway, the original show just kind of goes through Rory going to Chilton and then going to Yale. And there was a lot of like fan like controversy because people thought like Rory was like this like smart, shy, like sweet girl, when the show first started, and then she becomes just kind of like a brat is what people say. And they're like, why did you ruin Rory's character? Like she ends up like having an affair with like her ex-boyfriend who like got married super young, and like just like different stuff that she does. She gets in fights with her mom, where they don't speak for a long time, and you know, she at one point like runs to go live with her grandparents and like starts becoming like her rich grandparents, and like, you know, joins the like DAR, which is Daughters of the American Revolution group, and like just it just shows like the many different ways like your life can kind of lead in a different direction, and the Lorelai's always there for her, you know, like all this stuff, blah blah blah. So the controversy was like, especially people like rewatching it. This is what I love to get into, okay? So series first aired in 2000, okay? I mean, I wasn't into like any of the like online like what's going on with Gilmore Girls at the time. And I don't even know if they had a lot of that at the time.
I mean, they must have.
I
imagine it must have been like a really niche part of the watching experience compared to now.
And this is what I love though about like streaming services, because like people will rewatch like old series, and then there's this like all this whole conversation, and then when they release like a limited series based off of that series, it's like all in like pop culture again, you know? So like you see like interviews and like stories and like all this stuff. So this is what I love to read. Like I like to go back and read like what people are saying about like the series now. And that's just really funny. So everybody's like, man, like when you look back at like toxic characters that you didn't think were toxic at the time you were watching it, but now you see it and you see that they're toxic. And it always has like the Gilmore Girls is on there. So I think that's pretty funny. But the limited series, the very last words of the series is Rory, the daughter. She turns to her mom and she says, "Mom." And the mom says, "Yeah." And she says, "I'm pregnant." And then the whole series, like the whole thing ends. And so you're like left wondering like, oh, is it the dude that she's been...
They really ended that on a cliffhanger?
They really did. And it leaves the whole thing in question, because once again, you know, it's her being a single mom, you know, we think, right? Because she's unattached at the end of the series, like stuff isn't going her way. Like she's supposed to be this like international journalist, that was her dream, and she, you know, it seems like she's got her whole bright future ahead of her. Well, in like the retrospective, it shows like she really doesn't have a steady job. She's been trying to get a meeting with Condé Nast. They keep putting her off. Like she goes to interview for this website that they begged her to come work for, and she goes in the interview and she wasn't like prepared. She really didn't want to work there, and it showed. And so the website like passes on her, which was like crushing, because she's like, I didn't even want this job, but it was like my last resort and they didn't even want me, you know? So she's like down and out in her life. She's like broke, doesn't have any money. She moves back to Stars Hollow, like momentarily, like just temporarily, to try to get her life together. And she starts running the Stars Hollow Gazette that had stopped. Like she brings that back. Just basically her life is in shambles. Like she's having an affair with her again, another ex-boyfriend that she almost got engaged to, who is engaged to some like French heiress, okay? And just, it's like she's just all over the place. Her life is in shambles. We see Lorelai, also the mom. Her life is kind of at a weird place because her dad passed away in the show. Her dad died, and so the whole family is just like, it shows like Rory's grandmother, Lorelai, and Rory all just kind of like, they're at this place in her life where everything's just like in shambles, kind of. So Lorelai goes on her own search for what she's looking for, but the very end is Rory saying like, I'm pregnant, and it just goes back to like, it's full circle, because she's, even though she's older, you know, I think she's like 32 or something in the limited series, she's pregnant for the first time, she's unattached, she has no job, she has no, you know what I mean? Like, so she's going to be like in the same position that Lorelai was in. So anyway, there's all these fan, like, people saying like, okay, who's the father? So that's like, you know what I mean? It's just really funny to me. Like, people really do like get into this stuff. Yeah. And I just eat it up. I'm just like reading about it. Like, I couldn't care less. Like, you know, it's a show, but I still find myself like clicking on articles like, oh, let's see what these people think, you know?
Yeah.
Super goofy, but anyway, that was so sorry I was rambling there, but that's basically what the show is a lot of rambling. So there you go, that's your preview. But it was really cute. I do like that show. Like, I think I like it more when I rewatch it than like I did even the first time I watched it. So yeah, so it was fun. And I like to hear like when people I know are like rewatching it too. I'm like, oh, it's such a cute show, So yeah, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna skip that one. Yeah. I mean, I basically just gave you the gist of it, so.
That sounds very 2000s.
Oh, it was? Is it? Well, I think it could translate to now.
Oh, okay. Well, just because it has parts that are translatable, that doesn't mean that it's like you were talking about, like, the fast dialogue and stuff. Like, that sounds very 2000s.
Oh, I can see that.
Stylistically.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. It's funny, isn't it, when you, like, look back at older shows and you're just like, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you were saying, like, looking back at older shows like that, it is neat to see, like, just technology differences and stuff that, I mean, you're obviously aware of. It's just funny to see. It's like, oh, not everybody has a phone on them all the time,
Yeah, but it also, like, shows, like, like, even with college, like, the whole goal of like Rory's, and I know this still happens, like the whole goal was like to get into a good college, and her mom like pushed her and pushed her and pushed her to go to Harvard, but she ended up going to Yale. And it's like, it just kind of shows like now that would read differently, you know what I mean? Because I think now there's a big like push for like college isn't the only way to move, you know what I mean?
Certainly more than it would have been in the 2000s.
In the 2000s, yes, exactly. And also, like, check your privilege, you know what I mean? Like, she's just like, oh, should I go to Harvard? Should I go to Yale? Like, it's just like, like, there's just some differences there that would not, I think, read well nowadays. And I definitely think that shows, but that's the fun part about watching stuff like from forever ago. And there's also some like, I guess retorts or like put downs that are like, would not work in today's world, that is just totally off color now. I mean, it always was, right? But now I think people are more aware of those things and they're not going to write it into an episode, So, I like to see those cultural differences between, that's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So
certainly interesting.
Definitely interesting. It is. Yeah. It is. It was fun. I mean, I had fun rewatching it. It was definitely like a lighthearted kind of, just something that's fun to do. So now I got to pick another old series to rewatch, and I'm just not sure which one. Like, I feel like I've watched all the old series. Maybe I'm gonna get into like the Golden Girls or something.
Oh, yeah. I like Daria. That's from like about a decade.
Yes.
Well, about a half decade earlier, but.
Yeah. I remember Daria.
Yeah, you can rewatch that.
Yes, that's true. What is that streaming on? Is it on
I have
anywhere?
no idea. Yeah, that's also, I think, like the second or third time I brought up Daria on our podcast.
Yes. And I always have to go, na, 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 na. I tried watching My So-Called Life, and I couldn't get into it. Like, I was just like, nah.
Yeah, well,
So that's my current viewings. I just finished it. So yeah, that's been my current viewings.
I got a second one.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, a new Pokemon game came out.
Uh-oh, holla.
Which, it's been out for like 3 weeks now.
Okay.
I haven't played as much as I normally would because of the World Cup.
Oh yeah, I gotta have priorities.
Which, actually, that's kind of funny. I got back into Pokemon during the last World Cup.
Really?
Yeah, like I remember in between games driving up to the store to go buy the newest Pokemon game.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Like, it's a tradition.
Well, they make new Pokemon games basically every year, so.
Oh, yeah. That's true, because I'm like, I feel like there was just a new one recently.
Yeah, no. We've done it twice on the podcast already.
I thought so, okay.
They released them too soon. I think they should take some more time to space out the releases more, but whatever.
So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, this one's called Scarlet and Violet. I don't know if I've explained the thing with Pokemon, but they come out with two of them.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes.
Yeah, I got the red one this time, because I like the Pokemon in the red one better than the purple one, even though I like purple better as a color.
Yeah, I do too. But, you gotta go by the Pokemon. So,
Yes.
do you usually get both
No.
eventually, or you just do one?
I just get the one. There's some people that will do that, but
Yeah.
that's not me. There are not a lot of differences between them. Like I said, it's basically just the Pokemon. Like, a few of them will have characters that are different for each game. Like this one, the main professor, there's like one character for Scarlet and one character for Violet.
Okay.
But yeah, so this one's a bit different in that it's totally open world, and they broke out the structure that they normally use. I don't know if I've explained open world to you before, like as a game term.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, God, I don't know how to explain it, because, like...
So someone who's not in gaming, yeah.
How it's meaningfully different than, so, as opposed to, level-based, you can basically go anywhere you want. I mean, there's, roadblocks, and some of the areas are more difficult than the other ones, but,
Okay.
you're not, restricted. There's wide open spaces, and everything's interconnected. There is no, breaking up of space.
Okay.
I mean, older Pokemon games were also interconnected, but they weren't you had... It's hard to explain this to someone that, doesn't. I'm sure there's a way to do it, I just don't know it, but, yeah, so you get, a big...
I mean, I think I get what you're saying, yeah.
Previously, there's usually, linear routes, that you have to go through to get from city to city, and now there's, just wide open spaces.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. And, yeah, so there's that, and they broke out the, story into 3 different sections, so there's 3 different, stories you can go through, and you can go through them in any order, and this one, the, thing for it is that you're going to this prestigious academy, so you get to be in school for some reason.
What fun.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird choice, especially because they started adding, clothing options where you could, go to the fashion store and buy clothes, and now you're limited to your school uniform.
Oh.
So you can only, change your hat and shoes and stuff.
Oh, man, come on. Maybe that's why they did it, just to, avoid all of that.
No, I mean, it's odd. But yeah, this one takes place in a fictionalized version of Spain. I've mentioned that before, that all the Pokemon games take place in, or at least the main ones, take place in, a fictionalized version of a real place.
Mm-hmm.
So this one's based on Spain.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so your 3 stories are your normal, you go through the gyms, which I'm sure I've explained this before, but I'll explain it again, where you go and battle and collect a gym badge, and once you're done, beating all the gyms, you go and beat the, Elite Four, which is the best trainers, and then you become the best Pokemon trainer.
Ah.
You're the best at battling your little dudes.
Your little dudes.
Yeah, there's another one where you go and take down big Pokemon that are hiding this, magical herb.
Ooh.
And you're doing that with this other student who wants the magical herb because it has magic powers and heals his sick Pokemon.
Oh.
And then the third one where there's this, group of delinquents that you're taking down at the behest of another student whose shock twist turned out to be the leader of them the whole time.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah, and also in between that, you can go back and take classes and talk to the teachers, who all have their own storylines.
Wait, so you can
stories.
you can take classes?
Yes,
That's
I
funny.
mean, almost all of them are just tutorials for the game. So,
Oh, okay.
a few of them have, actual information, and a few of them are, actual just, story and character bits.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're all just, here's a tutorial for the game.
That's pretty funny, though.
Yeah, which is really weird. I mean, I get, the school setting, they want you to have classes, but for the most part, they're all stuff everybody already knows.
Yeah.
There's a bit of new information, again, a bit of, character and story information, but I don't know, it's a weird choice to me, just the whole school setting.
I mean, but there's been so many, like, Pokemon games, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, at some point you're like, okay, let's do a school.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's something different, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this one, which I feel like is what I've been kind of mixed on the past 2 times that
Yeah.
I've talked about this series. Just because I don't know, like them breaking out the structure, really like it's not how I play these games, and
No.
like they took out most of the buildings you could go into, and they had to structure the cities differently to account for the open world, which like previously the cities were all like points in and of themselves, like you'd enter a city and then like you're loading a new map and that would be like its own thing, and they'd have certain like ways they would design the cities to accommodate for that, and I felt like that sort of decision allowed for them to make their cities a lot better. And you could also go into buildings in the cities, and almost all the building like internal buildings have been removed here, and it just I don't know, I think the cities are worse, which is honestly like that, and the environmental design, like which I think suffers from being open world. That's part of my like favorite parts of Pokemon games, and there's just like less NPCs to talk to.
Yeah.
Which like it's not like a big part of the Pokemon games. Like almost none of the NPCs have something interesting to say. But I still like
it's just
making
part of it though.
As part of the structure, making it to a new city and taking a break to just like go look at everything in the city and talk to all the people.
Yeah.
But just not as good here.
Aw, that's a bummer.
Yeah, and then there's this like weird leveling thing that like fans have been debating about, just because it's I mean, it's a whole thing in this whole genre. Like, if you're gonna make a game where people can go wherever they want and you have levels in it, well, how do you tune that difficulty-wise?
Yeah.
Because, that's surprisingly a difficult question, because you can just make it, okay, there's set levels, which is what this game does. So, this one area is like level 15 stuff, and this one area way over here is like level 50 stuff. But, like, what happens if you go, like, do the, like, level 30 stuff first, and you manage to, like, sneak a win out of that, but then you still have the level 15 stuff you have to do, and now that's just, like, ridiculously easy for you,
So you don't like that?
Well, I don't know. I think they could have chosen something better, but the alternative isn't always good either, because I've definitely played games where everything levels to where you're at, and that's also can go wrong. And make everything kind of like a mediocre slog, because there's no variance.
I like that description, mediocre slog.
Well, yeah, it just makes it so like, you never get that sense of progression, which is like the point of a leveling system, is that your character or whatever, your Pokemon gets stronger, so.
I gotcha. So, what's your overall rating of this new release?
Yeah, I don't know, like, I mean, it's still Pokemon, so it's still fun in some ways. It's just, I don't know. I think this is the weakest one they put out in a while, and
really? Yeah, that sucks.
I haven't mentioned the stories yet. I mean, I described what they were, but I also think the stories are weaker than they've been in a while.
Aw.
Like,
that's such a bummer when that happens.
Yeah. Only one of them I feel like hits really strongly, and that's because it's going really hard for, like, the sick Pokemon story. Like, it's going really hard for your emotions on her. Like, okay, they handled that well enough. But the other one, like, I think, like, the gym story has always been the weakest, like, written story of a Pokemon game, but that's not, like, a problem, because it's just sort of, like, it's what you do. It's, like, the base, bare-bones plot. You're going from point A to point B to defeat gym battles, and the, like, rest of the story is what fills the games in.
Yeah.
And I think breaking it out as its own separate thing does it no favors. I mean, I guess it's fine,
Yeah.
Like, usually this isn't something you're expecting to be this big, like, well-written story, but I don't know. That doesn't work. And then the other one, just because of the structure, I don't think works, because of the fact that, like, you can tackle it in any order. They can't really tell, like, a, linear narrative out of it, like they could in previous games. So you just end up with sort of it focusing all on character moments, and it's like, the plot to that story had already happened, more or less.
Yeah.
And it's just you slowly figuring out what happened, and It's just the way it's written ends up being, like, just very dull, I think.
Just not as good as it used to be.
Yeah, well, and this is the third time they've tried something like this. Like, I've explained this before, but I'll do it again just in case you don't remember.
Yeah.
That they always have a villainous team story. There's some team that's going to do nefarious things of some sort, ranging from, like, in one game, there's a criminal enterprise that runs illegal gambling rings and, like, tries to take over a building. In one game, like, the villain wants to use powerful Pokemon to destroy the world and create a new one.
Goodness.
You know, they get kind of out there.
Yeah.
But for the past several, they've done something where it's like a flip, where it's like, oh, you know, you think that this, like, villainous team's gonna be up to something really sinister.
Yeah.
And it turns out they're just kind of like run-of-the-mill delinquents, like, you know, they're fine mostly, they're just, a little bit rowdy.
Yeah, not to try to take over the world.
Yeah, and it feels like the third time they've pulled that trick. It's kind of like, okay, I get it. Like,
yeah.
I liked it the first time, now you're just sort of, why lead with them, like, trying to make them seem sinister?
Like, they need to get some new ideas.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was their new idea.
Yeah.
It's just they've done it 3 times in a row.
Right, yeah. Pick another new idea.
Yeah, and I don't know. I didn't think that was good. And then there was a, like, final story bit that was really, like, one character's story, and then, like, 2 other characters from the 2 other stories are also there.
Yeah.
And it goes weird science fiction. So, like, the lore of this game is that there's an area in the center of the region that's, like, it's, you know, off limits to everybody unless they have, like, special permission to be there because it's so dangerous. And there's the professor there. All these games have a professor. They're, like, a big deal, part of the structure of the story and whatnot.
Okay.
And the professor's been there doing research about something or another. Well, anyways, you get there, and it turns out, there's a time machine and also an AI.
Oh.
So it just takes a weird science fiction turn in the last minute.
Like, weirder than the whole Pokemon science fiction?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's more like you're used to the Pokemon bit, you know, that's like...
Yeah, right.
And then all of a sudden you're just like, yeah, we're doing time machines now, and AIs.
Yeah. You're like, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't think, Pokemon's good at telling short stories most of the time. They just don't really, like, when you give them a longer story, they can sometimes tell good stories, but when they do short stories, they're just kind of, like, I feel like they either rush through it or just, like, try to pull something off that they haven't given the characters enough space to do, and I feel like that's the same way here. And again, it's weird, because this is like, the character with the sad Pokemon, that's just a dog. It's just a dog, I don't know why the Pokemon is just a dog. It's like
weird.
His dying dog, and you make the dog better.
Aww.
The professor is that character's mom.
Okay.
Or dad if you're playing the purple one.
Interesting.
And there's like a whole, you know, they were caught up in their research instead of, like, spending time with their kids, so, like... You know, it's a character moment for that character, and then these other 2 characters are just here with you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not really doing much for you.
No, it's just, it's weird. I don't think it's their best outing. I don't like the structure, the story's just kinda But what's especially weird is that, like, from the response to this, I've seen several people say that this is, like, one of the best Pokemon games in years, and I'm just sitting there like, what?
No.
Yeah, like, I thought this was one of their weakest outings, and in fact, the last game, which a lot of people, like, vocally didn't like, I liked that one a lot, and I'm just, like, sitting there looking at people, like, saying, you know, the story's good or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't get it. Yeah. I just don't get all the praise.
Yeah. I know, you know, I feel like, so half of the, like, allure of getting into a game is like, oh, a new one came out, like, you kind of have this, like, excitement, like you want to see what it's all about. I mean, I'm assuming that, like I said, I'm not a gamer, but like when I read books, you know, like
yeah.
if there's like a new book by author I like I'm excited to get it. And then like you hear like all these people that like it and you think it's going to be great. And then like I read it and I'm like, oh, I didn't really like it. Like, I don't know why all these people love it. Like, it's so weird. Like, and it's even more disappointing. And I can imagine with you too, like, you know, a new game comes out, you're excited to try it out, see what it's all about. And then you're just kind of like, didn't really like do that much for me, you know?
Yeah.
It's so disappointing because like you want to love it, you know?
I don't know that I'm disappointed. It's just like, you know, because this is like, it's not a bad game. It's just, there have been times where some of the Pokemon games they make are just not really to my taste. I feel like they're not as good as some of the other ones, but I still had a fun time through it, I guess, so.
Yeah, like entertaining.
Yeah.
It just wasn't your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's where I'm at with it. Yeah. That's my last current viewing, yeah.
So did you finish the whole game, though?
I finished the main story, like I reached the Oh god,
What?
the credits. There's an Ed Sheeran song in the credits. I don't know why.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't like it.
No.
It was like, it's like someone went to Ed Sheeran and was like, write me the most generic pop song possible. It feels like something made for a made-for-TV movie about, like, a pop star.
Yes.
It's just generic.
Cringy.
I don't know if it's cringy, it's just boring. It's just like...
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, but, like, I got to that point and I'm like, I had heard Ed Sheeran was working with Pokemon for some reason. I didn't realize he was doing the credits song.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I don't know. Didn't like that
I wonder
part
if that's going to
either.
be on his next album.
Yeah, well, that might be. I don't know. But yeah, that was. I mean, it could have been from one of his previous albums. I don't know if he played it for Pokemon or if it was an older song. But yeah, that because I hit the credits. There's still stuff to do in the game.
Yeah,
but, you know, I've hit the main story. So
it's so random.
Yeah, it was. Especially when they've never done that before. They've never done like a song with vocals in it like that. I don't think.
Yeah.
Or lyrics, at least. They've done songs with, like, you know, vocals singing, but...
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Wonder what his, like, connection is. Like, did they just randomly pick him?
Yeah, they've been
like,
working with artists for a while now. Like, they did something with One Direction. I think that was, like, a marketing thing, though, not in the game itself. They did that, like, thing with Post Malone, where he did a cover of that Hootie and the Blowfish song we talked about on the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's so funny.
I think they just want to, like, work with popular musicians just to spread the brand out some more, you know.
Oh, there you go. That's smart.
I just wish I didn't have to hear it on the credits.
Oh my god. Well, one thing that I thought was kind of funny, like when you're saying, like, marketing stuff. So, on the Year in the Life episodes of Gilmore Girls, they had, like, this storyline where Suki, who is the chef, played by Melissa McCarthy, like, she was away, like, she was upstate New York, working on this, like, farm with Dan, what's his name? I forget, like, famous chef guy. And, like, so they kept having, like, Suki kept getting these, like, famous chefs to come and, like, do pop-ups at the inn that Lorelai runs. And it was, like, Roy Choi and, like, Rachel... What's her name?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I'm so bad with
I'm
names.
not gonna know any of these people.
Well, it's like all like famous chefs.
Gordon Ramsay, I know that guy.
Yeah, I don't remember if Gordon Ramsay was one of them. But basically, they had like a bunch of famous chefs like run through, and that was like part of the like side story. Like she would just like fire all of them. Like, yeah, it's not working out. Like nobody can replace Suki, you know. But it was all these different like chefs, and I was like, all of these people probably have like Netflix shows, and that's why Dan Barber, I think is the guy's name. Anyway, I'm like, that's why they're doing this in this show, you know, like I just thought it was like, okay, product placement, you know. Like, but it was so over the top, like you had to like roll your eyes at it, like, you know, it's so goofy. Yeah, it was kind of funny, but
yeah, that's my current viewing.
Yeah. Well, I always like to hear what you've been up to, and especially your thoughts on, like, the World Cup, because obviously, like, I'm not, like, a huge, like, soccer expert, so I gotta get all my real soccer news from you. You.
Well, I'm not like a huge soccer fan. I don't keep up with like any of the stuff, like regular season stuff. Just like when there's big international tournaments.
Well, like, I didn't even know the World Cup was coming, and so you're like, yeah, the World Cup,
yeah.
We gotta watch it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that thing. So, But anyway, no, I enjoy hearing about all this, so,
yeah.
Yeah,
I'll take us out then if we're done.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, well, that's been our podcast, Beach View. We hope you enjoyed listening and tune in next time. Bye.
Bye.